Hey guys, welcome back to Breakthrough Kitchen. Today I'm going to show you guys how I made these chocolate chip cookies. One of the best recipes I've had so far for chocolate chip cookies. I've made so many chocolate chip cookies in my lifetime working at an ice cream shop back when I was in high school. We needed to perfect a cookie recipe for their cookie sandwiches, and let me tell you, this is probably the best recipe I've tried. So here I am just mixing all the dry ingredients, which is the flour, baking soda, baking powder, and salt. I'm using a whisk to make sure that I'm getting all of those big chunks of flour divided and incorporated in with all of the other ingredients. Once I'm done, I'm putting that to the side, and I'm going to take out another bowl to start with the wet ingredients. I'm going to be adding my butter. This is softened butter. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't leave it out, so it didn't get soft the way that it should have been. I had to throw it in the microwave, but I do know this one hack that I've seen on Instagram where people take one big glass and they put hot water in it, put that in the microwave, and then they put that hot glass on top of the butter and they leave it there for a few minutes and the butter softens. So I should have tried that, but you guys can definitely try that if you don't have your butter out like I did. Once I have the butter all creamed up, I'm adding some white sugar and I'm going to be adding some brown sugar, and I'm going to be mixing that all together until it is nice and creamed. Now I'm using a whisk here. Definitely it does get a little messy because it does thicken up. If you have a stand mixer, I would 110% recommend doing that in the stand mixer. Otherwise, you can also use a hand mixer. I do have a hand mixer, but for some reason, I just wanted to do this by hand and see how it came out. It was a little hard. I did end up going in with a wooden spoon instead because it was a lot easier to get all the butter incorporated to the sugar. Once I have it at this consistency, I add one egg and I whisk that up, making sure it is all incorporated. And now this wet mixture is going to be a lot easier to work with. It's not going to be as thick. Once I have the egg in there, this is when I'm going to be adding the secret ingredient. So I've never added this ingredient to any other cookie recipe that I've ever tried, but adding it to this recipe really does make it a lot better. I'm not sure what it is. It has to be some sort of chemical reaction with the baking powder and baking soda, but I add 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. Now, if you don't have apple cider vinegar, you can definitely skip this step. You don't taste it when you add it in here, but let me tell you, it makes a difference. I made another batch without the vinegar. It did not come out the same. So definitely, if you have it on hand, throw it in there. That tiny little bit makes a very, very big difference. So I'm mixing that up, making sure it's all incorporated together. And then I'm going to be adding the dry mixture to this wet mixture. Now, obviously it's cookie dough. It is going to be on the thicker side. It was a little hard to work with. Now, again, a stand mixer, I need to get one of those because it just makes this process so much easier. You can walk away from it for a few minutes and it'll still be good to go. So here I am. I'm going to be adding the flour, baking soda, baking powder, and salt into the mixture. And you see how much dry ingredients there are. I'm gonna post another video where I did this exact recipe, but I messed it up, guys. I had a typo in my recipe when I went to do this, and I did not add the proper amount of flour. Let me tell you, it did not come out the same. I had one big pan of cookie and it wasn't even cute. It wasn't even like a big cookie cake sheet. It was like undercooked. It was just not it. So make sure when you're doing this, baking is extremely precise. You want to use the right measurements because if not, you're not going to get the right outcome. So I have it all incorporated. I'm going to be adding my chocolate chips. Now these are mini chocolate chips. They're semi-sweet. Semi-sweet is my favorite because I just feel like milk chocolate just doesn't hit the same. And I use mini ones because I just prefer mini ones, but if you want to use regular size chocolate chips, you can do that. Another thing that I think it would be a really good idea is adding a little bit of both, or even some chocolate chunks in there, because a lot of different textures in your cookie just makes it a more interesting bite. Just makes it more fun to eat. It's just more, it's even a prettier cookie. I definitely recommend doing that, but this is what I had on hand. And this is what I did here. So I have a brownie recipe where I added chocolate chunks and chocolate chips, and that one came out delicious. And the brownies came out looking really, really good. So if you have some chunks on hand, definitely throw those in. So I don't want to over mix this, just making sure that it's all incorporated, those chocolate chips in there. Now I'm going to be taking out my pan. I'm going to be putting some baking sheet on it. This is parchment paper. If you have a baking sheet, I definitely recommend using that. Aluminum foil would also work, or you know what I did one time too, I just buttered my pan and then I scooped the cookies on there and it came out great as well. But I had this parchment paper on hand, so I thought, let me just use the parchment paper. It is a lot less messy than using butter or anything like that, but it does have a little bit of a different outcome depending on what you use. It's gonna be good nonetheless, but the bottom of it might be a little crispier and more caramelized if you use the butter instead. So now that I have it all good, I'm going to be using my ice cream scooper to make them into balls and putting them on my baking sheet. Now my ice cream scooper is a little messed up. That's why it's taken me a little while to do this. It should be a lot quicker. And that's also why I fast forwarded it, so you guys will have to go through the pain of seeing this because it was super annoying to do. But once I have it all on there, I'm going to be throwing these in the oven. And I'm going to be throwing them in there only for about 10 minutes. And let me tell you, more than 10 minutes, it's not going to come out any good. Now, when you take these out, they're going to look a little undercooked. They're going to look a little not super golden brown. But let me tell you, take them out at 10 minutes because anything more than that, you're going to have a hard cookie. Now, that first batch, I took them out in 10 minutes. The second batch that I'm going to do right here, I took them out at 12 to 14 minutes. And they were hard once they came out. They came out looking golden brown and delicious, but once they cooled down, they were hard. So definitely, guys, listen to me when I tell you 10 minutes is the sweet spot. If you have a very, very strong oven, if you know that, if you know your oven, you might maybe do 8 to 10 minutes, but 10 minutes is the sweet spot. So you're going to see how these came out in just a second. And this batch makes a perfect 12 amount of cookies. I definitely recommend this recipe. If you guys really enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.